Live? Are we live? I think we're live. Sorry, I've just left everything until the last second, so I'm quickly just doing the description of this video, just so that the Discord link is in there if anyone wants it. So just bear with me. Who is in? Is anyone in early doors? I've just been doing the getting everything ready for the 2 videos coming up as well, the next 2 Saturdays, which is going to be part 1 and part 2 of the Pause for Security podcast. So over the next 2 Saturdays, there's going to be part 1 and part 2. Had to do it over 2 parts because done it with UK Security 101, as he is the co-host, as most of you might know by now. And we ended up, the edited down version was 86 minutes. So I thought better to do it over 2 parts, and rather than doing like an 86-minute episode, which people might be in and out of or whatever it is. So yeah, I've just been doing the stuff for them videos as well. How is everyone? Is everyone going well? Sean Bartlett, hello mate, how are you doing? I am reasonably good actually. Reasonably good. Like I say, I'm just trying to, obviously a day off today. I feel quite rude because I am actually doing something else whilst I'm doing the live. So just give me 20, well, not even 20 seconds, 10 seconds. Right, that is safe. That's done. Yeah, I feel reasonably good. Week so far has been good. Reasonably excited for the Pause for Security episodes to come out. I had a really good chat with UK Security 101 on Saturday. I think our Zoom ended up being over 2 hours, doing like a pre-chat, and then obviously the episode, and then obviously a quick chat afterwards. There's going to be loads of decent information over the 2 episodes. So I'll be starting off. Episode 1 is going to be starting off as a dog handler, me making a little bit of an apology, but yeah, so the first one's going to be starting off as a dog handler, and then first aid. So we go into a little bit about first aid, etc., and maybe what you would do in some situations if you needed to administer first aid. I think there are a couple of really decent conversations. And then the second part is questions. So in the second episode, there's going to be questions about how often to do bite work. And also, what was the second question? The second question was regarding starting off again as well, and things like that. So, like I say, them 2 episodes are going to be really good. Loads of information, as ever, with me and Aaron. We start off on one subject, go into about 3 or 4 different others, and then come back to the original question. So there's going to be loads of stuff going on. GC, evening, gents and ladies. Evening, mate. Chip King, good evening. Hi, mate. How you doing? Haven't seen you in a while. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. Dog is really good. He's a little bit knackered. Went for a walk around the park not long ago, so he's a little bit shattered. Yeah, I think recently, over this past year, I've had so much bad news go out throughout the whole year. I've never really let on to anyone certain stuff that's been going on, but I've had a pretty tough year, to be fair. And just this week, I was playing golf last Wednesday with a guy. So every year we go and play in a golf day, which is like a memorial day for one of my dad's friends who started up something at a golf club. And last Wednesday I went and played, the same guy we've played with for the last couple of years. And then I'll get a phone call last night that he had died. He had some breathing issues that he was going to the hospital about, and he ended up dying. And it's not the first tragedy that I've had this year. Like I said, I've never really let on too much, but there's loads of stuff that's gone wrong this year, etc. And like I say, I'm good. Me personally, I'm good. Everything's been going well. There's nothing wrong with me and the dog, etc. So, but yeah, no, I say it's just been a constant. Every couple of months, something seems to pop up and things like that. But as with everything, sort of life does go on, and you have to just try and make the best of it, and certain things like that. And I think with security dog handling, it does give you the opportunity to be alone with your own thoughts for a long time. So I think it is important to be part of a group. I think a lot of speaking to lots of different people and trying to help people out throughout the whole year has kind of distracted me from a lot of the stuff that's been going on. And I think being able to be part of something and speaking to people on a regular basis can help you get through certain stuff, as well as obviously family and other things like that. So I'll say, if you're not a member of the Discord, then if you want to become a member of the Discord, the link's in the description. Just getting through and just being able to chat with loads of dog handlers, with a lot of dog handlers that about different subjects and things like that, I think is a good part. Because, like I say, I think with security dog handling, you can, if you are in low moments or if you are going through some stuff, I think it's quite tough to sit on sites for long periods of time with your own thoughts and that. So, like I say, I think it's, especially with security dog handling, it's nice to surround yourself with a group of people that you can get on with, you can have chats with, you can have not arguments, but you can have conversations with two different sides to it. So, like I say, if you want to be in the Discord, the descriptions down below. Danny Rolfe, morning all. Morning. It is, as you may know, 7 p.m. I'm not sure whether you're saying morning because you've just woken up because it's a day off or what, I don't know. But but it's not the morning for me. It's definitely the afternoon stroke evening for me. So has anyone had anything going on? As with ever, get down in the chat, and if you've got any Q&As, then let me know and I'll give my opinion. There may be some people in this that will give their opinions as well. Not really got anything that I know I said in the last live that I was going to come with stuff to talk about and different things like that. And I think a lot of you will probably know that I sort of wing this. And I think it's no surprise to anyone that I do actually just kind of wing it. And I kind of not rely, but I kind of hope that some people will have some questions or at least some subjects that we can talk about. Other than that, I'll just sort of start going off in some sort of tangent and we'll end up in some sort of conversation somewhere. I got a video sent to me this afternoon, and it was quite an interesting one of some CT training that someone was doing. And a lot of you guys would have seen my CT, and it's a case of like go and do a patrol, go and do some protection work, you'll do obedience, you might do some agility, and there might be something like a special scenario, or there might be something a little bit extra that gets added into it. And I got sent a video today of some CT with people in cars, flares, or like little smoke bombs, police riot shields, and doing security dog work that way. And yes, if this dog is being trained for the police, then it's perfectly fine. But in terms of security work, it's just kind of over the top and sort of what you would expect to see online in sort of YouTube or Instagram, or someone trying to promote themselves with like smoke machines. Because I said, my message back to him, I said, that's handy because I'm forever behind a police riot shield, sending my dog in to drag someone out of a car whilst there's a smoke machine going on. And I think a lot of that is that it can look cool, and people will look at that and say, yeah, that's really what I want to do. And there will be people that will watch it and think it's really cool. But in terms of actually security dog work, it doesn't need to be that far. You don't need to be behind police riot shields with smoke bombs and people in cars, because at the end of the day, if someone's sitting in their car, they're not a threat to me. If there's smoke bombs and things like that, then I don't need, as long as they're not threatening me or I don't feel there's going to be an attack on me, I don't need to send my dog into a car to go and drag someone out. So I think there are, you have to be careful with the way in which I think you have to be careful in ways in which training can be fun and it can be different, and then there's training that the dog doesn't need to do. I don't want to teach my dog to go into a car, grab someone and drag them out onto the floor, because I think 99.8% of my working life, that's never ever going to happen. The only time that may ever happen is if, let's say, on the rarest occasions, the police need help and maybe you're the only one that's there that could help them. I still don't think they would ask you to do that. So in terms of security dog work, you're never going to have to send your dog into a car to drag someone out. You will have to possibly deal with like smoke bombs and different things like that. I know that there are some trainers that will do scenarios with maybe fire extinguishers and things like that. And yes, I agree that that's maybe something that you could add in as like a rare thing, just because when you're on site, possibly someone might pick up a fire extinguisher and blow it at you and the dog, and obviously you don't want the dog to freak out or to cower away from that. So some things like that maybe, but in terms of like getting your dog to go in and drag someone out of a motor behind a police riot shield and things like that, it's not, say, 99.8% of your working life, that's never ever going to happen. So we have to remember that in security dog handling, the dog is there to protect you from an attack, or if you feel that your life is being threatened, etc. So in terms of you actually approaching someone, and whilst they're not being a threat to you as such, then yeah, you don't need to worry about that kind of stuff. And in terms of if someone tries to run you down with a motor and things like that, you're still not going to go towards them whilst they're in the car in order to deal with that situation. The best thing for you is just to get yourself in the safest place possible so that they can't run you down and things like that. So, like I say, you have to be a little bit careful between what you would call kind of clickbait kind of videos that look cool to actually what security dog handling and what security dog training should be. Chip King, totally agree with you. A lot of trainers make a dog too hyper and bite happy, makes the dog OTT. It can do, like I say, it can do, and it can. You obviously with sort of the dog training, etc., is that you have to give the dog scenarios so that it knows pictures. So I've spoken a little bit about this before, is that dogs will see situations in pictures. So let's say, like I've used this example before about, I was walking down the park and there was a runner and he stopped pretty close to us and was walking towards us whilst flapping his arms around and heavy breathing. To my dog, when we've been at training, when people have made noises with their mouths and been using their arms and flapping their arms around, to him, that's a picture he's seen at training. Therefore, my dog gave a bit of a reaction. Yes, I stopped him straight away, but to him, it's a picture. So there will be certain situations that you want to get the dog used to, in terms of scenarios. But I think, yeah, there is a point where the dog can go over the top. And funnily enough, in the video that was sent to me, is that the dog wasn't paying much attention to the car, the people, and the smoke bomb. The dog wasn't paying much attention, and the dog was actually, so you had the riot shield, a guy behind the riot shield, the handler, and then the dog was behind, and they was going in this direction. So the dog was actually the furthest member of the team away from the car. And at the very start of the video, the dog's not even looking towards the car. And it's not until he snaps the dog into sending him into the car. This was all done on lead, which is a bit of a plus, because a lot of them times is that you'll see that it'll be done off lead. It wasn't until he actually got the dog to come forwards and go into the car that the dog was actually interested in the situation. So you can see that in two different ways, is that the dog is so used to this kind of training that he's like, right, I don't need to worry about it. I'll worry about it when I'm told that I need to act. But you can also see is that the dog actually wasn't indicating on what the threat was. The handler had to indicate to the dog what the threat was going to be. So you can see it in two different ways. I don't know which way is the best way. Like I say, there's positives on either side, that the dog was not worried about the people in the car, the smoke bomb, etc. But then also that the dog wasn't interested in the threat that the handler and the guy behind the riot shield was trying to sort out. So you can see it two different ways. You can see negatives and positives in both of them. But yeah, I don't think we need to worry about that too much. Like I say, you just have to be careful with trainers that want to make training look really cool and different things like that, to it being a bit over the top and it being a bit sort of YouTubey, clickbaity kind of stuff. GC, what happens if your working site gets broken into, your dog ends up biting the intruder? How is this viewed by the police? Now, a lot of this is going to be, it all depends. So the best thing that you can do, and something that I'm quite adamant about, is that every handler should have a body cam on. So every handler should have a body camera. Therefore, everything gets caught on camera. Everything you do right, everything you do wrong. As long as you don't do anything wrong, you're not going to get in any trouble in it. So the first thing is that you have a body camera, because there's a good story, a good example of this is that there was a handler working a site, and he was walking around without the dog, and next to where they was a housing estate that wasn't happy about the new houses being built there, and they was taking it out on the security. So the handler was just walking around without the dog, and they were shouting abuse at him. And I think he said something to the kind of words of, "Whatever, mate, I'm not worried." And he's walking back towards his van, and someone kicks the door into the site. So now there's someone come on and trespassing him. So he goes to the back of the van, grabs the dog by the collar, doesn't have time to put the lead on the dog before the trespasser comes up to him. So as the trespasser comes up to him, he gets aggressive. The handler punched the trespasser and put him on the floor and said, "Leave me alone, back off." The dog's now barking. The guy gets up, comes towards the handler again, and whilst he's got hold of the dog on the collar, he just puts the dog in front of him. The dog ends up biting the trespasser. So this is a real story. So they said, "Your dog's just bit me, etc. I'm going to call the police." So the handler says, "Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Call the police." So as the police turn up, there is now the handler and the dog. You've got the trespasser that's been bitten, and now there's not a massive crowd, but there's a few people that have come onto site to sort of back the trespasser up that's been bitten and make sure he's okay. So the police turn up, and there's let's say 10 people, and then you've got the handler and the dog. And the police walk up, and they say to the handler, "What's happened?" So the handler says, "Look, I was walking around. They were shouting abuse at me. I've walked to the back of my van. I'm walking back to my van. Someone's broke in and come towards me. I've punched him, put him down on the floor. He's then come at me again after I've told him not to. The dog's ended up biting him in order to protect me from an attack." So the police said, "Okay." So then the police have gone to the group of 10 people, and they've said, "So what happened?" And the group of 10 people said, "We had a bit of a back and forth. This guy's gone onto site. As the guy's gone onto site, the handler's gone to the back of the van, opened up the back door, let the dog loose. The dog's run up to the trespasser and has bit him." Now, in terms of the second scenario, where he's let the dog out, the dog's run up and bit the guy, that would be an illegal, well, not an illegal bite, but you'd need proof that was a life or death situation in order for that to happen. So the police have now got two stories. They've now got 11 people or 10 people saying that the handler's gone to the back of the van, opened up the van and let the dog run loose to go and bite the guy. And then you've got the handler's scenario where he said, look, he's come over, I've punched him, he's come back at me again, the dog's then bit him. Without any body cam, any CCTV, the police now have to decipher who is lying. Is the handler lying, or to save himself and the dog, or the 10 or 11 people lying in order to get the handler in the most amount of trouble? Luckily for this handler, and he knew this, which is why he parked the van where he did, is that there was a CCTV camera above his van, which caught everything on video. So you see the guy walk up, you see the handler walk up aggressively, you see the handler punch the guy and put him on the floor, you see the trespasser come back at the handler again before the dog has to bite to protect him. So only through that video can the police decipher who was lying, and they've now deciphered that yes, the 10 or 11 people are lying. Now you've got two policemen. And this is true. So there was two policemen that was watching it, and one policeman said his dog can't bite that trespasser. His dog's not allowed to bite. The other policeman said, well, the guy's walked up aggressively, he's punched the guy, and the guy's still come back. The handler has done everything he could to the point of actually having to defend himself once without the dog. The handler has done everything he could in order for the dog not to bite. That guy's decided to come back again. Therefore, he's had to use the dog. So because the handler had done everything he could to not use the dog, I don't want to say he got away with it, but that becomes a legal bite. That is a form of self-defense because he's tried everything not to get the dog involved, but he's had to because the attack was continuous even when the guy had already been put on the floor. So in terms of, it all depends on how the police want to view it. It all depends on the situation. But in terms of everything, you have to be able to justify it, and it has to be a justifiable bite. So it all depends. It all depends on the situation. Every story of a live bite will be different. But you just have to make sure that you justify it as best you can. And like I say, this is why I always say that handlers should have body cams on, because it will catch everything. And if there are 2, 3, 4, 5 people on the other side of you, they can all make up one story. And then the police have to decipher, are these 4 people lying, or is this one handler lying? So, like I say, it all depends on the situation. But I think that story of the handler with the trespass, I think, is good because it proves that there can be 2 policemen looking at the same piece of footage, and they can both have a different opinion on it. And at the end of the day, if that ends up going to court, the problem that you have is that the judge will more or less make a stance on it, and the judge could be with policeman 1 that says his dog can't bite and you'll get in trouble for it, or the judge could be on policeman 2 and say, well, yeah, he done everything that he could and the attack kept coming towards him, so therefore he had to use the dog. So I think it's very, very different in certain different things, but the thing that you have to try and do is make sure that you can justify, and you've used every possible skill you've got in order for the dog not to be involved, but the attack kept coming, therefore the dog had to be involved. Bill's Alley, are you NASDU level 2 qualified? I am NASDU level 2 qualified, and I've got a team certificate with my dog. So yeah, I think well explained. Thanks. Yeah, like I say, everything you do everything you do in terms of live bites, you have to make sure that it is justifiable. I know of another handler that went through a live bite this year, and he had issues with people keep coming onto site and different things like that, and they was breaking into different places around, and there was, just before they broke into this site, there was a security guard without a dog that got beat up quite badly, by some people, and he had people keep breaking into this site. Now, he had a live bite, and as far as I'm aware with this live bite is that he asked the trespassers on site not to put their hands in their pockets. He said, look, if you put your hands in your pockets, I'm going to take that as a threat. There's no need for you to put your hands in your pockets. The guy went to put his hands in his pockets, and he sent the dog in to protect him because of the situation he was in, and he had asked them people not to put their hands in their pockets because he could see that they had nothing in their hands. Therefore, for that person to put their hands in their pockets, they're putting their hands in their pockets in order to get something. And he said to them, look, you don't need to put your hands in the pockets. There's nothing that you need. I'm just going to escort you off site. They was becoming aggressive, went to put their hands in their pockets, and he sent the dog in. That the police okayed that as an okay bite because he had told them that if they put their hands in their pockets, that was a direct threat towards him. So you have to kind of back yourself up with that as well, is telling the people what you will find a threat. Because at the end of the day, if you're telling someone what you will find threatening, if they go to do it, then that person is making that act towards you, knowing that you're going to think that is an attack. And as far as I'm aware, they put round all of the hospitals about this dog bite, and if someone come in with a dog bite, they wanted to speak to them, and whoever it was never ever turned up to a hospital. So that tells you that they knew that they was going to be. They knew that the dog bite was a legal one because A, they didn't report it to the police, and B, they didn't go to hospital to get treated. So I think a lot of the dog bites as well is that if you have a live dog bite and it's not reported and someone doesn't go to hospital, you know that it's a legitimate dog bite that was needed, because they don't want to go to the hospital and then get found by the police and then questioned about the situation. So Porsche K9, even though, sorry, I'm late. That's fine, mate. You said you was going to be 20 minutes late anyway, didn't you? Have you been working or have you just been doing something else? Bill's Alley, any tips on training my dog on recall because he struggles on it, please and thanks. Is that a recall? Is that just a general recall, or is that like an emergency recall? So let's say your dog is your dog's off playing and you ask him to come and he just stands there and looks at you. Emergency recall. So emergency recall, some tips. I mean, I don't struggle with this. My dog's a little bit the same. His emergency recall can be done. I can stop him from doing whatever he is. So let's say I send the dog in for a bite off lead. Let's say I done that because it was a life or death situation. If I send my dog off lead to go in for a bite, I can, yes, stop him from biting that person. In terms of emergency recall, I do have an emergency recall video. I'll put it in the description of this once it's finished. But what I've done is I've used a long line. So what I've done is I use a long line, and the way in which I've done it a few times is that I'll have a ball and I'll throw the ball, and as the dog goes, I'll come up with a command. So the one in which I've tried to implement now, because I used to have it as no and then come, but I just wanted to get it down to one command. So now I use round, and it was just a command I heard on a podcast. I thought, you know what, I want to try and use round. So now what I do is I attach him on a long line. Is I'll tell him to leave the ball. I'll throw the ball, not very far, maybe like 10, 12 yards. And then I'll say, okay, you can get the ball. And maybe as he takes 3 or 4 steps, I'll say round. And if he doesn't come back towards me, or if he doesn't go round and come back towards me, with the long line, I will stop him and I'll say round, and I'll make him come back towards me, back into a heel position. And then I will do that 2 or 3 times. And then I'll throw the ball and I'll say, go on then. And I'll let him get all the way and go and get the ball, get him to bring the ball all the way back, get the ball, throw the ball, let him go and get the ball, bring it all the way back. And then maybe like the third or fourth one, maybe even fifth one, is I'll throw the ball, tell him he can go and get it, let him take 3 or 4 steps, shout round. If he doesn't, then I'll make him come back without the ball, make him come back into a heel position, let him go, shout round. If he comes back, put him in a heel position, say, good boy, okay, you can go and get the ball, and then he can go and get it. So the reward for completing the round command and coming back is that he gets to go and get the ball on the next one. Never do, if he does the round command correct, never do it a second time. Let him go and get the ball as a reward to say, well done, you can go and get it. What was I going to say? There was something I was going to say on that. What you will probably find with what I've found with my dog is that you'll throw the ball, tend to leave it, throw the ball, tell him he can go and get it, and then when he takes 2 or 3, you'll say round. He won't, so you'll check him, get him to come back into a heel position. On the next one, you can say, right, you can go and get it. What my dog does is he takes 1 step forward and he looks at me and he says, are you going to say round? And you go, no, go on, you can go. And then he'll creep 1 more. And then maybe when he gets past that 2 or 3 steps, then he'll think, right, he's not going to shout round. So then once you've got it down to maybe sort of 2 or 3 steps, maybe you'll start letting him go maybe 5 yards, getting halfway, shouting round and coming back. But I think that, like I say, have him attached to a long line, and once he just tends to leave the ball and go and get it and then shout round. If he doesn't, then get him to come back in. Like I say, I do have an emergency recall video. It's maybe last year. It's quite about a year old or whatever it is. Like I say, once this video is done, I'll put it down in the description. So if you come back later, you'll be able to see it. Thoughts on e-collars. I see lots of high-level trainers using them, but not many handlers. So e-collars are a lot of people have arguments about it. I'm always one for technology. So if there is something that some new technology that would help. I'm not saying e-collars are new. I think we all know that e-collars have been around for a while. But let's take the emergency recall, for example. So e-collars are designed for you to have contact with the dog from distance. So let's say you get the dog used to the e-collar, and when you give it a little bit of a radio buzz, the dog understands that you are connecting with that dog. You are connected to the dog and you want to get his attention. So let's take an emergency recall, for example. Maybe you would start off with, like I said, sending the dog a few feet and getting him to come back. And then maybe you'll then unclip the lead and you're telling him he can go and get it. And maybe you'll let him get 10 yards away from you. Let's say you put the ball at 20 yards now. Maybe you let the dog get to 10 yards away from you and you give the e-collar a click and the dog comes back to you. There's nothing wrong with that. I think what the problem is with e-collars is that the perception of them in the public domain is negative. People or like public don't understand how to use them properly. They don't understand what they actually are. They wonder why e-collars are needed because their little fluffy little lap dog doesn't need it. Therefore, why do these dogs need it? They feel like it's an electric shock, which it's not. It's kind of like a vibrating buzz. The same way that 80% of humans now are notified by their phone by vibrating in their pocket. It's exactly the same thing. I think if you could come up with some form of, not license, but I think some sort of course that you could take so that you know how to use them properly, and if people ask, then you can bring out some form of certificate to say, look, I've gone through the course, I know how to use it, etc. I think the interesting thing with e-collars is that a lot of the trainers that you'll see using them online are all American. In the UK, as far as I'm aware, in the UK, you can use an e-collar, but you can't buy them here. If you buy them, you have to buy them from abroad and get them shipped in. As far as I'm aware, you're not allowed to buy them here, but you are allowed to use them. But like I say, I think the problem is that the public perception of it is that you've got an electric shock, and I think there's some videos I've seen online of people using e-collars and trying to explain to. This is in America, and it's the trainer is trying to explain to the owners of the dog, look, it's not an electric shock, and look, here's the e-collar. So they've been using the e-collar with the dog, and then he takes the e-collar off, gets the owner to hold the e-collar, and he says, right, I'm going to press on the button, and you let me know when you can feel anything on any vibration from the e-collar. So they push on it. The owner says nothing. He turns it up a bit, pushes it. Long story short, they normally get up to about maybe 20 or 30 before the owner starts to feel something in their hands. And he says, right, that's great. So you've only just felt it. They say yes. They say, okay, well, that's on, let's say, 25. So I've got it on level 25. You've just felt it. Your dog has been using the e-collar for the past 10 minutes on level 8. That's how low the vibration has to be for the dog to get it. Because the dog has so many nerves in or around the neck, it's on level 8. And it's not until that's explained to the owners that the owners start to understand, well, okay, well, if it's on level 25 and I can just about feel it, on level 8, this is not causing any harm to the dog. It's the e-collar is just designed for you to have communication and a connection with your dog from distance. And like I say, in terms of like emergency recall, emergency stops, different things like that, it's basically sending your dog off and then tapping your dog on the shoulder and saying, look, I want to speak to you. And the dog, so you push the button, the dog gets a bit of a buzz, and the dog looks around and says, oh, did you want to talk to me? And you say, yep, come back here. He goes, oh, all right then. And then he comes back. So I'm not against e-collars. I think a lot of times technology is good, but unfortunately technology moves a lot quicker than people's perceptions of things or people's knowledge of stuff. So yeah, I think it is a shame that they're not used more often. There is obviously lots of people that don't like them. There may be trainers that don't like them as well, but I think unless you've tried it and seen if it works, I don't think you can write it off as something that couldn't be used in the future. You can buy and use here. Wales, you can't know they're banned only in Wales. So England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, I would assume that you can use them. Only Wales have banned the use of them. You can buy them. Okay. I thought you couldn't buy them. I thought they wasn't allowed to be sold here, but you could use them. But if you probably know more than I do. I haven't really researched it too much because I don't use them. And the problem with maybe me using it is that I would need to find someone in order to go through some form of course, make sure I'm using it properly. But I think someone like me who has a YouTube channel that is using it, etc., it could go one of two ways. I could either be someone that not promotes it, but someone that shows a good side of using it. But I could also be seen as someone that is promoting it, and a lot of people that don't like it, it's all going to kick off. So I think if I don't need to use one, I'm probably not going to, because I don't want to deal with the backlash. And I think that's some of the problem with security dog handling is that I think everything with dogs is that it can be very cult-like. And if you are seen to be part of one cult, let's go on e-collars. So you've got the for and against e-collars. If you take them as two different cults, so there'll be people that are very for and people who are very against. If you go into one cult and say, right, I'm for this, everyone in that against is just going to throw abuse at you, whatever it is. They're going to throw all sorts of abuse towards you. And the same way, not in the same way, but the people that are for it are going to go maybe give some abuse to the people that are against it, because they're saying, well, you don't understand it, etc. So I think with security dog handling, sometimes you just have to kind of be in the middle. Yes, there are certain things that you can be outward about, and maybe you can put your opinions towards. But I think there are certain subjects where you just kind of get on with it yourself, and you don't put it out there too much. Obviously, I've just said that I'm open to it, but I haven't said that it's a disgrace that they're not allowed to be used. I haven't said it's a disgrace that they are used. So I think on e-collars, I like the idea of the technology. I think people just have to understand that it's not an electric shock; it's just a vibration, the same as your mobile phone in your pocket. And I think possibly we just need to I think we need to get some experts to go to the government about it and show them the actual use of it and show them the benefits of it. Because I think there are lots of situations and lots of people that are going through where dogs are running across parks and attacking other dogs because they've broke free from the lead or whatever it was, or the dog has broke the emergency stop command or whatever it is. So I think it's something that a lot of people could help with their training, and it could help with the way in which their dogs live their lives as well. Good point. Especially in dog trainers, there's few communities who are very loud minority, particularly a purely positive trainers. They're very abusive to other types of dog trainers. Yeah, I just because we talk about security dog handling doesn't mean it only happens in security dog handling. It probably happens in other places as well, but I think it is because it's to do with dogs. If this wasn't to do with dogs and this was to do with ferrets, I don't think anyone would care. It's because the public perception of dogs is that they're the cute little lap pet things that they have at home that might bark at a door or whatever, but is never going to do any damage to anyone. I think because the public perception is that people have such a strong opinions. Like I say, if it was to do with, let's say, ferrets, people wouldn't care at all if you put an e-collar on a ferret. And I can guarantee that if you put an e-collar on a ferret, no one would care. The moment you put it on a dog or a cat, all hell is going to break loose because people see them as the fluffy little things that they have at home. They don't see them as the security dogs that are required in order to keep people safe from criminals. And I think that's the way in which you have to put it, is that these dogs are the way they are because of the people that they deal with. I think if you saw a police dog handler with an e-collar on, I don't think people would worry too much, because people would understand that, yes, that dog deals with people that are very violent, and maybe the dogs need to be at a certain higher level of protection. But like I say, I think people just have to be in their own camp, but maybe sometimes they don't have to be so out about it, because I think that causes more problems than it solves sometimes. Oh. Some good questions coming in today, and some good, and I think some good subjects as well, especially how will the police see a bite. It's very different. And I think we've spoken about e-collars before, like last year, whatever it was, but I think it's a good subject that should come up more often, because I've seen lots of videos about them, and I think there are lots of positive towards them, and I think there's lots of pet owners that would benefit from it as well. It's not just, I don't think it's just security dogs and just working dogs that will benefit from e-collars. I think there are lots of pet owners that would benefit from it as well. And like I say, sometimes it's just an understanding that it's not designed to hurt the dog. It's designed as a communication tool, easy for me to say, between someone and a dog. Agree. There would be an outcry, just like mobile phones are judged to be harmful to us. Well, because a lot of the things with tell me if I'm wrong on this. I'm pretty sure that they was trying to link mobile phones to testicular cancer at some point, wasn't they? Because lots of men were having their mobile phones in their pockets, and they were saying that the obviously the waves and the connections and all things like that was causing men to have testicular cancer. I don't believe that's ever been proved to be correct, but that's something that they was trying to put out there. Well, I had heard that they was trying to put out there at one point because of mobile phones and that. So, but that's maybe because mobile phones were new and people didn't understand about it. Now everyone has one, and no one bats an eyelid about keeping a phone in your pocket and it might cause testicular cancer or whatever it is. So yeah, I think mobile phones are very similar. And like I say, that's the best way in which I can describe an e-collar through my limited knowledge. Listen, I say I don't have loads of knowledge about it. I've never really worried about looking into it too much because I've never used one. But that's the best way in which I can kind of put an e-collar the same as it is to a human. It's the same as your mobile, just vibrating to notify you that someone wants to talk to you. And then what's the first thing you do with your mobile when it vibrates? You pick it up and look who it is. If you get the dog down to e-collars, you can push the button, the dog will look at you and say, yeah, what do you want? So yeah, I think that's all that needs to be said on it. I think that it's a good topic to bring up, and I think that's all I have to say, because otherwise I'm going to keep going over myself, which I probably have already. I think I've said mobile phones vibrate, e-collar quite a few times. What are we at? 46 minutes. So has anyone got any last thing that they want to talk about? If you've got any last subjects or last questions, we'll cover that. I think the last two videos have been my top five. So I had the top 5 new handling mistakes that I see. I think that was a good video. I think sometimes, unless it's pointed out to new handlers, sometimes they don't see it. Definitely some things like when doing patrol, going all the way up to the trespasser. Let me guarantee you, if you're on site and you go all the way up to and you see someone on site, you're not going to go all the way up to the trespasser. So just because it's your trainer or whatever it is, doesn't mean that you go all the way up to them and have a chat with them. Keep your distance, do your standoff, wait for the trainer to say, right, that's done, and then you can have your conversation afterwards. I think it's very important that in training that you try and make it as real life as you can for the dog and for you, because like I say, if you keep putting yourself in that situation and you keep saying the same things all the time, hopefully, I can't say this is definitely going to happen, because I think a lot of you know I've not had to deal with anyone on site. If you say the same things and you get it down, hopefully when it becomes a real life situation, you won't have to think too much about what you're going to say. It's just going to come naturally to you. It's going to be like through your head, it's just going to say, right, this is next, that's next, say that, say this, and you won't have to think too much about it. So, and also with the protection, I think it was a good tip, because I've seen it happen loads and loads of times. Something that I try to concentrate on is stand behind the dog during protection. A lot of times when the dog will go on the decoy and the dog will spin, so you need to make sure you spin to stay behind the dog. But also, if in a real life situation, the dog goes onto the bite and whoever it is keeps coming forwards, then you need to make sure that you can get round behind the dog, so that they have to keep going through the dog in order to get to you. Never get within an arm's length of someone. Make sure you just stay behind the dog. Keep that sort of 8-9 feet between you and them whilst the dog is doing the job. What was my other top 5? Can't remember what my other top 5 was. My other top 5 was stuff that I do that's like just personal to me. Something that someone come up with afterwards, I think was a very good thing. I think if I thought of it, I would have said it in that, and it is your appearance, so your uniform, different things like that. So making sure that when you leave to go for a shift, that you are looking the best you can, that you've not got trousers that are covered in mud or jackets that have got mud splattered all up, and making sure that you look presentable. can't even remember what did I even call that video. This is how much attention I pay to some stuff, isn't it? The not leaving until the handler that's taken over from me has locked up the site, etc., and things like that. It's just like some unwritten rules that I do that hopefully people may take on. Right, last couple of questions. What's your opinion on your dog's diet? I think again, I use tails.com. I put into tails.com how old my dog is, etc., and they make up a diet plan for him. So I'm not really involved too much in his diet plan. I put it into tails.com, and they, through their expertise or whatever it is, they kind of say, right, this is how much food he needs, this is what he needs, etc. In terms of treats and things like that, I top him up with different treats. They may be like the small milky bones. They may be different things. I've started getting things like rabbit's ears and sort of pig stuff. So not natural stuff, but obviously animal stuff, just to give him some extra protein or whatever it is, things like that. So yeah, my dog's diet, look, he doesn't go hungry. He's not lacking in energy or anything like that. So as long as he's getting everything that he needs, and I, like I say, tails.com, the people that do tails.com will know more about dog's diet than possibly I do. So I just go with what they say. Raw stuff, I've never done raw stuff, and I would probably have to look through it quite a lot in order to do it. So there will be other people on YouTube that will know more about dog's diet and raw food and things like that than I would. So yeah, my dog's diet's fine. He's got all the energy he needs. He's never hungry, and yeah, that's all I can say. Chip King, you can buy them in the UK, and they are also manufactured in the UK. I assume that's talking about e-collars. Sam Jack, let's do level 3. Is it worth it? Personally, no. Personally, I don't think so. So, as far as I'm aware, level 2, if you as a handler and the dog are past level 2, you will be able to do all security work. Level 3 is something to look to sort of go towards. And when I first started off, I did think to myself, right, I'll get to level 2, and then once I've done level 2, then I'll get to level 3. And I kind of got to level 2, and I was like, right, what's next? And it was like, well, you can do level 3. It's going to cost you another £1,500. You're not going to, as far as I'm aware, you're not going to get any sort of different work. And why don't you just train and do the level 3 stuff without actually going for the course? So in terms of level 3, as far as I'm aware, it's just things like tracking, which is very similar to patrol. So in terms of patrol, the dog is out there trying to find someone. In terms of tracking, it is sort of nose down, tracking individual footprints and different things like that. So to me, there's not enough benefit to warrant going for that. Let's call it a title, because I think in sports dogs you get titles. So level 2 is a title, level 3 is the next title. To me, there's not enough benefit in terms of I'm not going to get paid any extra money. I'm not really. I mean, yes, it looks flashy on a CV. It's like, all right, I'm level 3, my dog's level 3. It looks flashy on a CV, but it's not going to really get you any more work. So for me, I don't feel like NASDO level 3 is worth it, but it is there for people to aim at. And if you want to be a level 3 dog handler, then there's nothing wrong with going and doing it. Just me personally, I at the moment, I don't see a benefit in terms of my earning potential or my job potential. So for me, it's not worth it. But like I say, it's there for people to aim at, and it's there for people to try and achieve. So I would never knock anyone that wants to try and become a level 3 dog handler. For me personally, I don't see enough benefits in order for job or work, or my dog. I don't see the benefits in going for it when I can just train that stuff but never go for the title. Zespri. I tried raw with my dog, and the bones didn't agree with her. She's she's a one-off. She was passing undigested raw bones that cause bleeding. It could be a genetic thing. Yeah, like I say, I don't know enough about raw food, and I just like to go with mytails.com. They tell me what I need to do, tell me what the dog needs, etc., and then I just go with that. So, but there are lots of people that use the raw diet, and it goes really well. Obviously, some dogs like yours, it doesn't agree with, and yeah, I think my dog would like raw stuff. I don't think he'd turn his nose. I don't think he'd turn his nose down at it, or turn his nose up at it. No, he'd turn his nose up at it, wouldn't he? I don't think he'd turn his nose up at raw food, but he likes the food he gets now as well. So my dog's more of, if he wants a treat, I'll just put some grated cheese in his food and give him a bit of a treat that way. So that's the way in which he does it. Right. That is 35. That is 55 minutes. That's been a really good live. I feel like we had some good subjects, some good conversation. Hopefully, you guys got what you wanted out of this. Like I say, the next two weeks is going to be really good for new handlers and possibly even existing handlers as well. It's the Pause for Security Part 1 and Part 2 of Episode 3. Me and UK Security 101 going through becoming a handler. My apologies, because I make an apology, whether you accept it or not, or whether you feel like I need to apologise is up to you. First aid, so that is talking about the first aid that you get with your SIA license, but also maybe I throw some scenarios at him, is like, what would you do in terms of first aid if this happened on site, etc. And then part 2 is a couple of questions. So it was how often to do bite work, etc. There'd be our opinions. It's not out of a book. There'd be our opinions. And then the second one, I can't even remember what it was. The second question was to do with being a dog handler as well. So I hope you enjoyed them videos coming up. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Subscribe down below for loads more videos and to obviously see the videos come up in your whatever it is. And as for now, I'll see you in the next live in a couple of weeks. Cheers for all tuning in. Cheers for all your questions. Cheers for the chat. I feel like we're getting back on track with the Wednesdays now. So now on, guys. Cheers for watching.